This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 46. Welcome to the 46th episode of Comic Geek Speak, brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com, your spot on the internet for all the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Shlomo.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Jamie D.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And we are sans Peter this episode because he has a fever.
He was
Sick.
He's a poor baby.
Yeah. I can't wait till he hears this.
Come on,
Too
Matt,
bad.
you gotta do it. Give me a...
Wow, 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 wow.
Okay, before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that our August Book of the Month Club selection is Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead, Volume 1, trade paperback. If you're interested in participating with us and reading along, you can pick that up at instocktrades.com, where it's 40% off. And if you're so inclined, you can also pick up Volumes 2 and 3, also for 40% off. So that's a pretty good deal. And also our contest for the month of August is create a segment for manga and a segment for anime. We want two separate segments, just like our movie news segment that you heard a couple episodes ago from Tom.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, that's it.
just what we want.
That's exactly what we want. So you'll have until the end of August to send those entries in. We have received one so far, so
Cool.
Excellent.
keep them coming. And Jamie, I think you wanted to
Yes,
enlighten our audience a little bit.
Just a little disclaimer for when you're listening to me speak, and I know I've been getting a few words thrown at me on the blog spot, but listen to what I say, and in the context of what I say. We got some letters claiming that I ruined Harry Potter for a few people, and if you listen to what I said, first of all, it wasn't. We're doing this, I believe, on the 8th of August.
Correct.
Am I correct? I finished reading Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince 1:30 this morning. So I had no idea when we did episode 42 about anything that was going on in Half-Blood Prince. I had said, and like what I want to say is, listen to what I said in the context of what I said. I said that I would like to see Harry Potter comics, and what you could have them. You could tell stories in between what J.K. Rowling has told us, but you can't have major characters die in those stories. And that's what I said. I have no idea. I had no idea when I said that how this book was going to end, what was going to happen, or anything like that. So I wasn't ruining it for anybody. I wouldn't ruin it for anybody. There's been so many times that I've been talking about stories on this podcast that I've had to tap dance around what happened and what.
And Jamie tap dancing is quite the sight.
Yes,
So,
it's pretty much like the hippos in. It's like the hippos in Fantasia. It's a sight you don't want to see. You really don't want to see it. But no, just please. I was talking hypothetically, so don't. I don't want to get any more letters that say I ruined it for you because I didn't know what was going on. So take that as you will.
All right. We're going to go into a couple listener emails here, as we always do in the beginning. This one I particularly like. Okay, this is from Jason Renzi. He says, first off, I love you guys, man. Seriously, that's not just the alcohol talking. Secondly, on to the conundrum. My wife and I collect chess sets, and we recently bought a Star Wars set in New York. A problem has arisen since we opened the box. The opposing sides are represented by the Rebellion and the Empire, respectively. On the Rebellion side, we have Obi-Wan and Leia as King and Queen. On the Empire side, we have Darth Vader and Palpatine. Now this seems appropriate until one attempts to divine which character belongs in which position. Obviously, Palpatine is the Emperor, so he should be king. But my wife thinks that Darth Vader is in no way feminine and is taller, and the taller piece is always king, so Vader should be king. Hence the conundrum. Placing Palpatine and Vader into the chess paradigm, who is king and who is queen? Okay, now I think I know what I would do. In chess, the queen is the most powerful piece on the board.
Mm-hmm.
So the Emperor is more powerful than Vader, so the Emperor should be queen.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Not having seen episode 2 and seeing how much of a crybaby Anakin Skywalker is, I'd almost say he should be the queen.
No, but I mean, right? I mean, the queen's the most powerful player, so
That's right.
That's what I would do.
The queen is the most unlimited character in chess, and the king is the most limited.
right.
Well, not the because you can
Well,
only
one
move
of
one
them,
one in each direction. So
Yeah, I mean, pawns can only move forward, but I mean,
But-
still.
They
Yeah,
can still make
exactly.
it across the board relatively easy.
exactly.
So
I have to disagree. He's if you're saying he's the most powerful one, Vader was the chosen one. He was the one who would bring unity to the Force. So he is the most powerful character. He's there to protect the Emperor. That's why Palpatine wanted him. So to me, the Emperor is king. Vader is his right hand, his club, the guy he sends out to do all his dirty work. I would go with the Emperor as king and Vader as queen.
I see this.
He's a queen.
This could possibly crack the internet wide open.
Yeah.
yes, this could break their marriage.
But now, wouldn't the Emperor still be a little more powerful because he can seduce anybody and manipulate them in any way, fashion, shape, or form?
That would be my gut.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why would Ben Kenobi be the king?
I don't like that
Leia
either.
being the queen.
Well, who else?
No, they said Luke was king and queen.
No,
it's Obi-Wan's king.
Obi-Wan is king? No, that's
No.
ridiculous.
I don't like that.
Yoda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Get
figure.
Leia out of Yoda.
Yoda
Yeah,
could
but-
be king.
Yeah.
but he's so small.
Well, you just put him up on a high-ass pedestal.
Just
Put
have
a
the
nice
Force
big tree
lift him
stump
up.
or something.
I think R2's the pawns on that set, if I'm thinking the right
He has a
set.
picture. There are little X-wings. I think are pawns.
I was just at a local store we have around here called Boscov's, and they had a chess set for Marvel. I was looking at it. It was kind of neat. It looked like a combination of Marvel, regular Marvel, and like Ultimate Marvel.
I just sold my chess set from 1991. It was the 50th anniversary of Captain America chess set, where they had the Marvel characters were gold-plated, and your pawns were Wolverine, and your rooks were Hulk, bishops were Spider-Man, no, Punisher, knights were Spider-Man, and She-Hulk was your queen, and Captain America was a king. And then the villains was Sabretooth was all your pawns for the villain. The king was Doom. Queen was the White Queen. And then it was Doc Ock was the knights. And Red Skull was the bishops. And I forget who the rooks were.
Juggernaut?
But it was all, I'm sorry?
Juggernaut?
Maybe. I can't remember. I have to look at it myself. It's been a
How
while.
much did you get for it?
Almost about $350.
That's
Which
pretty
when
good.
it retailed when it came out, I got it for, it was retail price $400, but when I bought it at Golden Eagle, Lem gave it to me for just a bit above cost, so it only cost me like $260.
That's cool.
So I traded him for like half and then paid the other half. So I only had about $260 put into it. So he was nice enough to do that because there was no way I could afford $400.
Yeah.
And I had it. It was a nice set, but I never used it, and it just been sitting around. And I thought, well, time to unload some stuff. So
Cool.
it was a nice set.
Actually, looking at that image, Vader does kind of look feminine, with the hand on the side, and that's right.
It's kind of on his hip.
Looks like he's going to swagger.
Kind of a queen pose, huh?
He must be channeling the inner Rios.
Oh, jeez.
He's not here to defend himself.
It's like when Artie doesn't show up.
That's right.
Well, I don't know. So I guess
It seems like,
The room's split.
yeah, it's like,
Everybody else against me.
I don't know. I mean, I could see it.
I can see that point.
Yeah,
the
I
right
mean,
hand
it's-
man is the queen, but
I mean, I agree with you though. I when I would think of even for the good guys, I don't see Obi-Wan as who I think of first.
No.
I
No,
mean,
not as your king.
No, it should be Luke and Leia. I mean, that to me is more fitting. I'm not saying that Luke is, but because Luke is similar to how Vader is to the Emperor. In essence, that he's the chosen one. He's the one that they were, that they were.
I could see
speaking of.
Obi-Wan and Luke as king and queen because.
Yeah, but see, that
Yes,
kinda
I don't
takes-
want to go into that though.
I would go
Special use of
Obi-Wan
the
and
Force.
Obi-Wan is your bishop. That's what I would
Yeah,
see. I could see Obi-Wan as your bishop.
I would even think of Obi-Wan as a knight, also,
Yeah.
and then Yoda as the bishop.
A Jedi Knight.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
See, now that would make sense.
And Chewbacca is your
Rooks.
Rooks.
Yeah.
So guess what? Your whole set's wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, just
Send it
rearrange
back.
them,
Send it back.
And then I would have
Buy
R2D2 be the
buy
the
some
pawns.
toys and glue them to little
That's right.
stands
Yeah.
and make your own chess set.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can't help you. He said, despite this disturbing issue, I'm sure you'll agree that the set as a whole is totally frecking swear. I love it. And we anxiously await your adjudication on this pressing matter. Well, I'm
Indubitably.
Well, whoever you trust on the show, that's where you go. That's what you go with.
yeah, whoever you like the most,
That's right.
choose their answer.
Whichever one rings clear for you.
That's our new battle cry. Frickin' swear is our.
Some guy actually on the forum took the time to go to the urbandictionary.com and typed in swear, and it actually came up as a typo for sweet. And there were like 6 different versions of that same thing, and it's been around since like 2001 or something like that.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But we still have frecking, so we've coined frecking swear.
As they say in the universe, there are no accidents.
That's right. All right, let's find some more email here.
I liked on the forum, people are like, "Can I design the shirt? Can we run a contest to design a shirt? I want a freaking swear shirt."
That would be cool. We gotta start thinking about that. I was gonna say something about that. I saw that post too.
All right, this is from Brian Miller, the colorist from Hi-Fi Design. He says, I just listened to the Fantastic Four show. Great comments from you and the team. I really thought Chiklis stole every scene he was in and overcame the costume to deliver a great performance. The chemistry between all the characters, including Julian McMahon as Doom, was great. Jessica Alba as Sue came across as more than a pretty face, which was a relief, and the casting of both Reed and Johnny were spot on. I went in with low expectations after seeing the trailers and reading some early reviews. I was pleasantly surprised by how entertaining and fun this movie was. I had a great time watching the film, and nothing was so out of place as to disrupt my enjoyment. Fantastic Four was a fun ride from start to finish. A few gripes. Why didn't the filmmakers show the Fantastic Four doing more heroics and crime fighting? I think for the huge popularity of the characters in the film, they would have to consistently help the public, not just the rescue on the bridge. Once the mask went on, Doom should have become more menacing. They certainly should have processed McMahon's voice more. As far as smoking, the Thing does say he used to smoke, so I think that is sort of a concession. Once, when coloring an issue of X-Men, Wolverine had a stogie in nearly every panel of every page. The issue was finished and ready to go to press, and Marvel called, "We just signed an agreement not to show any of our characters smoking. Can you fix that?" So as a non-penciler colorist, I had to go in, remove the cigar from every page, and create the new art to replace it. It was a lot of work, and as a non-smoker, I really didn't mind. Still funny, though. And it says, oh, that's it. That's the end of the email. So, well, thank you, Brian. Those are good comments.
Yeah.
And an interesting story. I have to blot out all the smoking
Cigars.
X-Men. Yeah.
Just silly.
All right. And, okay, here we go. This one is from, and this is kind of Joe Jans. Not John Jones, but Joe Jans. It says, hi, guys. My name is Joe. I am writing from Davenport, Iowa. I just upgraded my iTunes software and now have podcasting and stumbled upon your show and thought I would give it a shot. Loved it. I started with episode 29 about the Wizard World convention you went to. I'm going to be attending Wizard World Chicago show in August. I just wanted to comment on a comment you made briefly on your episode 29 show. You made a crack about Lou Ferrigno charging $20 to get a picture or an autograph. He pulled the same thing last year in Chicago too, and I thought that was just the crappiest thing. I was just happy to hear that I wasn't the only one who felt that way. I'm sure he will be doing the same thing this year too. I had heard that a few years ago, when Hulk was still in theaters, he was charging $30. What an ass! Needless to say, he didn't get a dime from me. I spent it all on Jay and Silent Bob merchandise and got it signed for free. This upcoming August will only be my second convention. I was wondering if there was anything in particular I should be keeping an eye on. Oh, well, I guess it's a little too late because Chicago Con ended today.
Ended today, yes.
He says, I am mainly a Marvel fan and fairly new to comics. I'm 32 years old and got a late start on it all. Anyway, I love the show, and I'm going through your archives to download a few of those as well. I have an hour-and-a-half round-trip commute for work, so this really makes the windshield time go by quickly. Keep up the good work. I'll be listening. Well, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Totally agree, though. Nothing tees me off more when you hear stuff like that, at shows and stuff.
Yeah, because everybody needed that the autograph from the security guard from the Incredible Hulk. Since he was in the movie, he had to charge that extra money for it.
I need the money.
Whoa! Welcome to Matt's special place in hell.
That's right, baby.
But I mean, things to look for. I mean, we can always say something.
This year I
I'd like another email and let us know how you
What you
made
found.
out and what you saw and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what interested you? What new things did you discover on your own and see what you came up with?
Yeah.
I had my buddy Brian look for a couple prints that I saw were out in San Diego, and he actually found them in Chicago too. So it's cool.
Prints of what?
Adam Hughes, Just Us League Girls, and Power Girl one.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we got one from Sam in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Sam is not happy with me. He says, I know this is off topic, but you brought it up and it irks the hell out of me when people spew the propaganda they've been spoon-fed without doing any research on their own. It's irresponsible. For the actual facts on secondhand smoke, check out this site, www.davehit.com/facts. He says, you're entitled to dislike cigarette smoke for its inconvenience factor, but before you claim that it's going to kill you, after a couple of whiffs, no less, at least do some research on the subject. Other than that, great show. I haven't seen FF yet. I will, but I have incredibly low expectations for it. So that was in regard to my comments about how I think smoking should be illegal because secondhand smoke gets in everybody's way, even the non-smokers, and it's harmful to people. And this website, I looked at it briefly. I admit that I have not read it in detail yet, but it's just some guy who posted stuff about secondhand smoke. I mean, I question. I mean, I have no idea if his credibility is up to snuff. I mean, it's not from the American Heart Association. It's not from the, federal government or whatever
American Cancer Society,
or something like that. Right. So, I don't know if what he's saying is true, but I mean, I do know they just released a study. Because in New York now they've had that smoking ban for a year or two or something, 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
And they just released a study of workers who were working in bars and such. They've had a 90% drop in the amount of coughs and other respiratory illnesses that they had, just because they're not breathing in secondhand smoke. So even if it's not going to give you cancer, it's still damaging. It's still harmful to your system,
some way or another. Right. I mean, I just saw a study and I wish I would have known because I could have possibly have marked it and passed it along to your buddy there. But they actually showed a test where they took smoke and blew it onto DNA onto a like a pipette plate or whatever, and under a microscope, when the smoke hit the actual strand of DNA, the DNA strand actually started to break down in front of their eyes. They actually watched it happen. So So whatever Mr. Backslash there says,
And really, he didn't even say if he was a smoker or not. He just didn't like your interpretation.
I back you up, Brian, because I hate smoke too. So
yeah, I'm not a big.
And it gets in your eyes. Like, for example, I worked with a guy who used to smoke, and he married this woman who had a young son, and he had asthma. And so he said, okay, well, he only smoked outside then. He would come into the house, and just the smoke being in his clothing, it would still irritate the kid's asthma, so he had to stop smoking completely, because even the smoke on his clothes, not even breathing in the secondhand smoke, was detrimental to the kid's asthma. So, I mean, it just can't be good. Regardless of whether or not it causes cancer for the secondhand, it's just not healthy. So,
exactly.
Maybe I was speaking out of bounds when I said I don't want to die because my neighbor is smoking and it's wafting through my window in the springtime.
It's still
But
detriment to your health. And
I don't
that's
want to
bottom
breathe it.
line. Yeah, right. And you have a choice if you want to have that or
Yeah,
not.
so. But thank you, Sam, for the email, and I read it on the air. I was not,
sure.
he probably thought when he sent it that we were just going to skip over it, but no, we're reading it.
We're just so far behind. That's so.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we get to it eventually.
Hey, if we did this, 4 to 6 hours every day, we wouldn't be so far behind.
That's what we're
not there
striving
yet.
for. I'm hoping.
Yes,
Someday.
If we can all make $50,000 a year podcasting, we will do this on a much more frequent basis.
Hell, I'd do it 10 hours a day.
Make checks payable to.
I was gonna say, send us your checks. We'll take credit cards.
We're a non-profit organization.
PayPal the hell out of us, baby. All right, Jamie, you had a topic of discussion for us. Is that correct?
Yes. I was the other day. I was sitting where most men sit and do their thinking, and I was reading a comic, and I put the comic down, and I thought, wow, this is a comic that I really enjoyed, but I know it's also one of those comics that not a lot of people are reading. It's getting some critical acclaim, and I'll tell you what comic it is. But I thought, that's an interesting topic for discussion. And my question to the room is, what comic from Marvel and DC? Because I figure independents always need your help, and that's just you read an independent. It should, you can always say it needs your help. But what Marvel and wow. Thank you very much. No, what Marvel or DC book are you currently reading? And you have to be reading it. I don't want something that you've read that needs your help. That you're currently reading that you would like to see reach a broader audience. And I'll start off by saying the book that prompted me to say this was Gotham Central. For those of you who don't know, Gotham Central is basically a book about the police in Gotham City. It's not so much a superhero book as a book about everyday individuals, everyday police, that some superheroes actually, come in and out of. Supervillains come in and out of it. And I really believe, I'm not 100% sure, but it wasn't until about the middle, like 9 or 10, that they even really discussed heavily supervillains. And Joker was like one of the biggest supervillain that came into it. Batman, I don't believe, showed up into it for quite a while. But it's just a book that I read that I would love to see get a bigger audience, attract more people, and I just think people should read it. It's just a really, really good book. I mean, if you are going to pick up the new, it just was released, that it's Ed Brubaker and Michael Lark, yes, doing Daredevil. If you pick that book up and you like that book, or even like Michael Lark's work on Captain America, go back and pick up the first run of Gotham Central. He did the artwork for it. Greg Rucka has been doing the writing in it. I believe Ed Brubaker did some of the writing in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did earlier. He was on the book for quite some time.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a book that I would like to see get a bigger audience, because it's one of those that eventually it's just going to go away if people don't start noticing it, and good stuff will go away and crap will reign. So what does everybody else think? I mean, does anybody else have a book?
Can I chime in on Gotham Central for a second?
Sure.
I just read on Newsarama that issue, I think it's 37, has a direct tie-in to everything going on in DC into Infinite Crisis. So
cool.
So I think it'll be around a little bit longer than what I picked it up, because so many people kept recommending it, and as big a Batman fan as I am, I just didn't bother. But I picked it up. I haven't started reading the collection, but I was very intrigued by it. But that was just a little tidbit I read today that I thought, maybe pass that along. People might pick it up and then go back for previous issues.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, now, a year ago, I would have said Runaways, but now I think everyone knows that it's an awesome book.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still not a top seller.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing.
It should be, in the top 10 because it's a freaking awesome book. But, but it's getting the notice now. It's still not a top seller, but it's getting the notice. So what would I say now? And then maybe my other choice would have been a Vertigo book called The Losers, written by Andy Diggle and drawn by Jock. It's awesome. It's like they're CIA guys, CIA agents, a team of CIA guys who got kicked out of the CIA and now they've resurfaced, almost like an A-Team kind of thing. But they're more about getting revenge than about helping people like the A-Team. And it's action-packed, and the writing's really good. The artwork is fantastic. Now they just announced that it's being canceled with issue 21 or something. It's like, oh, crap. So now I don't know what to say.
Maybe you could start a petition start a letter writing
if
saying
Spider-Girl or
Spider-Girl got saved at least twice.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's crazy.
it ain't over till it's over.
I know, because that Losers book is really good. It really is.
It is disheartening when you find a good book and find out that it's just not getting the numbers, for it to justify keeping the title running. That really gets. I mean, it happened with me with Peter David's Captain Marvel, and some other books that I found.
It happened with me and Peter David's run on Young Justice. I always thought that was great and didn't get near the recognition that I. Young Justice?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You might want to speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you.
That wasn't supposed to be a public conversation.
Okay.
That's a good idea, because I was thinking Runaways too, but see, I haven't read a lot of that, so I know that's getting a lot of notoriety, but I don't know how much people are reading it.
This has been a topic on the board too. It's sort of connected to how, again, it deals with the trade paperback discussion, and Runaways is a perfect example where if they hadn't rushed Runaways to trade immediately, like when issue 7 came out, the first trade of the first 6 issues was already on the stands or whatever, and it was in digest format no less, so it was really inexpensive and affordable. I don't think Runaways would still be in print right now because hardly anyone was buying the book. But it looked intriguing to me when I saw the previews, but it was aimed at kids, so you weren't sure. They make it. I mean, the book is not aimed at kids, but Marvel's promotion made it seem like it was aimed at kids.
It's very anime type, the artwork.
And but I thought, I'd like to read that. I'm curious. Well, then the digest came out. It was real cheap, and I got it 50% off, so I paid $4 for it. I was like, how can you say no? And I read it, and I went, oh, my. So then it got on my radar, and then it got on other people's radar, too. And so basically that trade, by rushing to trade, they saved that book. They made that book, have the numbers. You combine the sales numbers of the trades with the sales numbers of the actual issues, and then it's profitable. So.
And see, I was never a big fan of the digests. I mean, I know you, Brian, especially, really enjoy them, and I know a lot of other people do, but it's something I never really invested into. But then they released the thing in hardcover.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, wow, now I'll get, and especially with DCB having 50% off, I thought, why not? I'm hearing so much about this book. It sounds like everybody that's reading this book really enjoys it or really loves it.
Yeah, Tasha loved it. I lent it to Peter. He ripped through them. He liked it.
I ordered the hardcover. I haven't received it yet, but I ordered it, and I'm gonna read it when I get that.
Yeah, and I think the hardcover is a sign that, now enough people are fans of it that now they realize, for the people who don't like the digest, they can buy the oversized hardcover nonetheless.
Right.
Which is really great.
Mm-hmm. I think the writer also had a lot to do with the fact.
Well, he's so popular now.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't been popular when that first came out. Brian K. Vaughan is the writer. And, his Why the Last Man and Ex Machina have started to take off. So people started looking for what he did, and then Runaways was there. And like Brian said, they rushed it there in digest form, cheap, they could get it, and it's taken off since
That's
then.
a great point, Brian, because I really do. You're absolutely right. I'm sure that book would not be around as it is right now, just because of that digest and the trade paperback format.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the rest of the books that came out from that line, there's nothing, I really don't think
Sentinel was canceled, and there's a book that
was interesting.
I'm
kind of
begging,
like that.
I am absolutely begging Marvel to publish another 6 issues of that. Again, even if you do just the digest, even if you just save them up and don't release them in issue format, I don't care. I have those 2 digests, and how friggin' cool is it, especially for a guy. a teenage kid who is a crafty with junk machines and stuff, and he finds a sentinel in his father's junkyard, and he activates it, and he makes it his friend.
Yeah.
Classic story of boy and robot, and it's a sentinel. That's so cool.
When I first heard that, I was like, I gotta read this because I love like Iron Giant. That's one of my favorite movies. And when I saw this, and Sean McKeever, I think, is writing, and I saw that, I was like, I got to get this book, and I did. I really liked it. I was very disappointed that I heard that it wasn't going to continue.
And when it ended, it was open ended. It was like you were ready for more, and it's like shit. And they talked. There were rumors that maybe if enough people bought the digest, they would resurrect it. And
yes, I thought last year at like Wizard World they had said something about that they were going to do a second act.
Right, and it's so far nothing. It's like,
I mean,
come
poor
on,
Sean
man.
McKeever, he's having that same.
Every book he writes gets canceled, and they're all good.
And everybody that reads it says they're great. And even Marvel, like Joe Quesada, will come out and say, like, hey, take a look at this book. We're just telling you it's a good book, and people aren't buying it. So it's not such a sales pitch thing. It's just a thing to bring your attention, bring awareness to. Like, go check it out. I mean, what's the worst you can?
I mean, those digests are $8, and you're getting 6 comics. And that's cover price. If you get it online and you get it cheaper, you're down to $1 a comic or less. That's pretty darn affordable. If that book was on the shelf for $1, a lot more people would buy it simply because it was $1. Well, it's the same thing, people. Oh well. So everything I want to be saved is already canceled. So
okay.
I don't know.
So you're SOL.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I don't know. I'd say Birds of Prey a little bit. It's a little bit more accepted these days, but I still think it could use more. I've always enjoyed it. I think especially Gail Simone's been writing fantastically in it. It's got some interesting story plots. It's got some OMAC tie-ins and things that are going to be happening. So,
and art-wise, Ed Benes came on and took over, and
the art's been
and
great.
Colored by Brian Miller.
Yeah, that's right. The art's always been good. I don't care
Shameless
who's been
plug.
on it.
That's
It's
right.
been very good.
I used to read that, and then it was one of those that I kind of gave up when it was one of those I just let go, and
yeah, I did the same thing.
My theory is always if I let it go, and in a month or so, if I don't miss it, then I really wasn't meant to be reading it.
That's
and
what I did
unfortunately,
with it.
it's kind of been let go. But I keep hearing Peter talks about it, Shane talks about it. One friend, Bill Vita, he claims it's a really good book. So hopefully, maybe DC will trade some of those, and I'll pick those up.
That's what I'm waiting for, because I used to read the book, and then when I decided to go all trades, I dropped it. And I still get a handful of comics, but mostly 90-95% of my stuff is all trades. But that's one book. Gary Frank started out on that book with the art, and they were really good reads. I mean, there's some really good stories in that. So I wish they would put that out in trades, because I'm buying them. I would buy them.
I left it go back when they went to Apocalypse for that 3 issues, and I didn't get that. And then I picked it up again after that, and then I went back and got those 3 issues, and then just kept going from there. So I've always gotten it, except for those 3 months.
How about you, Kev?
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking, because, like I said, I mean, with comics, I don't really get a whole lot of comics. So I mean, I was trying to think of things that I would read that could use a broader
I don't know
audience.
if enough people are reading Marvel Team Up. I don't know what the sales numbers are on that. I don't know.
They even just had an article on that on, I think, the Pulse, on Comic-Con The Pulse, and I didn't open it up and actually check the numbers to see what's going on. But there was something I was just checking on the internet in the past 2 days, that there was a specific article stating about the numbers on Marvel Team Up and how it's doing. It was in the effect. I mean, when I briefed over it was in the effect of that it's not in the top numbers in books,
right?
But it's still being published. I think the numbers, it's only being like a 36,000.
Yeah, see, that's right at the cutting edge.
Yeah, it is, because that's what happened to Captain Marvel. He was around that time too, and they ended up axing his book. So this was, I think, in just what you were talking about, that it's still being published, and it's not way up on the top 100 list.
That's
and
a
it is.
great book.
That's a fun Marvel book.
Yep.
If you've ever read Marvel and you enjoy Marvel characters, doesn't matter who your favorite character is, Robert Kirkman treats them all with the same respect and the same due.
And the coolest thing is, he said before it even started being published, was he has like 3 years of storyline plotted out, and he's weaving little pieces of that story in every issue. So it's not just a one-shot big fight between some guys and then on to the next thing. There's substance to it.
Right. It's not just let's put these 2 guys together and see what happens. It's like, here's a storyline, here's a grand storyline, but it also can be broken down that here's some tying in storylines that involve all different characters, so you get to see it from a whole different world, because you're seeing it through different characters' eyes and what they're dealing with as this main story is going on. It's a very well done book, so I would agree with that. Would be my choice.
I would say if you're a like a hardcore DC fan and you don't read any Marvel books, and you could buy one Marvel book, it should be Team Up, because you get a smattering of everyone and you get these cool stories.
You get to learn a little bit about each person. And one of the things I like about it, as opposed to the earlier incarnation of Marvel Team Up, it isn't always Spider-Man.
Right.
It's at times Spider-Man is kind of the common thread through most of them, but I mean, they've had Wolverine, and I guess Wolverine X-23. One of my favorite ones was just Blade and the Punisher. I thought that was
that's after
that
number
was
6.
that
So
was
you have to
number
wait
8,
for
I think.
trade. Yeah.
So it was just there wasn't a whole lot of action, but it was just a very funny interaction between those two characters, and I wouldn't have thought, because I looked, I was like, and then I read it, and I was like, wow, that was a funny book. That it made me laugh. There was action. It moved the story along, and it was just really good, I thought.
And there's cliffhangers to it, and it's like the thing that kind of gets me energized about it as well. Like, you could have a cliffhanger in one issue, and then all of a sudden that won't get touched upon until like 2-3 issues later.
Yep.
So he kind of sucks
Right.
you in with the other characters, and then you get the next chapter or the next
The resolution
level
of
of that of what was going on before. I mean, because I bought it with with Moon Knight and which was issue 7, and at the end of the issue it looked like Moon Knight and Spider-Man were together, and something happened, and it was like, what's going to happen next? And then next issue was 8 with Blade and Punisher, then it was 9 with Daredevil and Luke Cage, and then it was issue 10, and then it was back, and it was Daredevil, Spider-Man, and Moon Knight, and then that whole storyline wrapped up. But you got to see the underlyings of another facet of that storyline, which is edging on to the different part of the story and tying it all together. And now they've just released the information that they're going to continue it, because he was only supposed to do 12 issues, and now he's doing at least 24 now. So he's got it going on. It's really moving. So
Yeah, I think that's another thing where Marvel has a writer that they like who's been getting critical acclaim on other books, and they're going to let this book catch on and find its audience, kind of like they did Runaways.
And that's how the whole book developed, was the fact that Robert Kirkman is such a Marvel fan, and he wanted to do Marvel characters, and they were like, you know what, well, let's give him a book where he doesn't have to worry about continuity, that he can just tell a story and have fun with it. So there's no pressures. And you get that when you're reading the book.
Absolutely.
It's a great read. It's a fun book.
For all our fans out there who begged us to read Walking Dead, if you're not reading Marvel Team Up and you love Kirkman that much, go out tomorrow and buy the first trade paperback of Marvel Team Up.
I'll agree with that.
You told us to buy Walking Dead. We did. Now we're telling you to go buy Marvel Team Up.
And I'll say about Walking Dead, I ended up with getting all 3 trade paperbacks from In-Stock Trades, and I read them all this weekend. They're fantastic. I'm so glad that I read that. It's a fun book.
Kirkman has a good handle on the characters, and the thing that piqued me a lot was the fact that I liked the idea that it wasn't the same characters that there wasn't a common character, or there wasn't the same thing going on. That it was you were getting this whole slew of cast of characters, and there's characters coming back that you didn't get to have fun with for a while, or that weren't really ever had a lot of attention drawn to. Like, I'm looking forward to the next arc after, which is 11-12. Like a section they're bringing Nova back, and some of the other characters from the 70s, and I'm like, this is cool. I'm looking forward to, because I enjoy each issue that comes out, and every character that he does, it's not the same thing. He makes the characters different, so you enjoy those characters for specifically who they are. And the
artwork's been good too. I mean, for those of you, it's Scott Collins doing the artwork, and he had a nice long run on Flash, the Jeff Johns Flash, which I really liked his artwork on that, and that was actually his artwork was actually the thing, and you guys talked to me about it, was what got me to pick it up, because I really didn't know who Robert Kirkman was at the time, but since I've been reading that, and now I've been going back and finding out who he is, and I've read, I guess I got that Invincible Zero, the one I read that, and I've wound up buying all the trades with that. I have that to read, and Walking Dead, I had picked that first one up, and then I wound up picking up 2 and 3. So yeah, I've been going back and trying to find the stuff he's done. I've even actually been buying Battle Pope that Image has been putting out. I had seen that when he was originally out, and it looked funny, it looked interesting, and I just never got it. And now that Image is re-releasing it, I started picking it up.
So to give you an idea, I think Scott Collins is leaving because he with Kirkman was only anticipated to do 12 issues. And I saw some preview stuff from the artist taking over, which off the top of my head I'm not sure. It might be Paco Medina or something, but from the pages I saw, I actually enjoyed the art more than I enjoyed Scott Collins.
Wow.
So it looks kind of cool. And then I think in
Saying
issue
something.
14 or 15 is when Spider-Man teams up with Invincible. They're actually bringing Invincible
Yeah, I
into the
just read
Marvel
about
universe.
that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
that,
cool.
That they worked out a deal with Kirkman and Image, I guess, and they're allowing the crossover between Invincible and Spider-Man. So there's some previews of what's
Cool.
coming up in the title. So if you're going to check it out, that's some interesting stuff to look forward to.
I'd be wondering if did they say are they going to do? Is Spider-Man going to go into Invincible and vice versa? Is it going to be one of those, or is just Invincible coming into the Marvel
They haven't
universe?
really truly given you a full definite thing, but my understanding from reading the article was the fact that Invincible was coming into the Marvel universe, so to speak.
Okay.
So I don't know how it's happening, or they didn't get into any details. It's just that it is happening. But I got the feeling it was, since it's Marvel team up, that it's coming in. I don't know if there's going to be other characters in the book, that's going to deal with Invincible, or it's just going to be Invincible and Spider-Man dealing together with what the crossover kind of thing.
I wonder if maybe he's going to bring Invincible to the
The icon trade. I was wondering too.
Yeah.
It seems unusual that they would allow to have that character come in just for one issue, and especially after Kabuki and Powers have now been moved from Image to Marvel. I wonder if that's going to follow suit as well.
I'm sure Marvel's making them a sweet deal because they,
Oh, you bet.
that icon line, with only 1 or 2 books has been kind of like, is it still in business? I'm sure they want to pump it up a little bit, and
It's a smart move by Marvel. I mean, because those are popular books, people are reading it, they're loving them.
then you could see Walking Dead coming right along because that's also published by Image.
I feel bad for Image. I mean, they're losing all their top guns.
That topic, though, was also covered on Newsarama about that. Somebody asked Joe Quesada that if Icon was still in business, and he said, yeah, we never really said that it had to have a certain amount of books. It's just whatever we feel needs to be in there.
Right.
So it's still there, just not that strong.
Well,
at the moment.
and again, it's like, Bendis is a Marvel zombie. He always admitted that, so he'll probably always want to write Marvel comics. I don't know that he has any ambitions of writing DC. He hasn't ever talked about it that I've heard. So
the only thing I've heard was that I'm on his message board quite frequently, and somebody asked him about writing DC, and he would love to write Batman. But whether it would
That
ever
makes
happen
sense
or not,
for him, right?
that's his style. That would be his kind of character.
But he's not like a hardcore DC
No.
junkie. And Robert Kirkman is a Marvel guy. So by pulling his title from Image and bringing it over to Icon, he's cementing his relationship with Marvel. He's saying, look, I'm a lifelong Marvel guy. I just want to write Marvel comics in addition to his own creations, which is always cool. And then we'll be one big happy family.
Plus, it's like a tit-for-tat situation because now he's taking his book, which is published by Image, and now bringing it into Marvel, so it's probably going to reach a broader fan base. So it has a better option to reach more people and to sell more copies and become more popular. And in the same token, he has a relationship with Marvel and doing the Marvel books as well.
As soon as you slap Marvel on something, a lot more people take notice.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm also going to throw out, I listened to Scott Beatty talk about it, and I actually got to talk to him about it. It's just a mini-series, but I think Son of Vulcan, I think it's up to issue 3 now. That's been a fantastic read. So much. I looked at it when it was solicited, I'm like, bleh, what? Bleh. And after listening to him talk about it at the PhillyCon, I went that day and I bought issue 1, read it, talked to him about it, and he appreciated it. He was very nice to talk to me, and I think it's a great read. It's a lot of fun to read. Very interesting take on a subject.
Yeah, I picked up the first one also on hearing him talk at Wizard World, and I enjoyed it. I think I'm unfortunately going to wait till it comes into my local 25-cent bin and pick it up that way. But it's worth reading. I will say if you can find it there, or if you're looking for a half decent read, it is a good book.
Cool. Well, there you go.
That's it.
So what do we say? Buy Birds of Prey,
Marvel
like
Team Up.
Gotham
Central.
Gotham Central, and Marvel
Team
Team
Up.
Up. And Runaways, just in case you're not.
Yeah.
Isn't Gotham Central changing in the next the title? I
Oh,
thought
I
I read
don't know.
somewhere that it's going to some. It's going to be still the same book, and the same thing, but just have a new title to around the time of the Crisis.
I haven't read it
Because I
about
think
that.
the Superman book and Dark Knight, Legends of the Dark Knight, that's going to be changed to, I think, Confidential, Batman Confidential,
Hmm.
and I think the
Okay.
Superman title is changing as well.
I
And
think they're changing it to Gotham Central Police Squad.
I believe so.
With starring Leslie Nielsen
That's right.
Did
as Lieutenant Frank Drebin.
Is this some kind of bust? Yes,
Yes,
it's very impressive.
Did you guys read where Jeff Loeb signed an exclusive with Marvel now?
Yeah, how about
Absolutely.
As Supergirl is starting to come out, I'm like,
that? But he's still
He's still
he's
doing
gonna
doing
he's gonna
Supergirl.
yeah he's
Yeah.
still gonna do
To a
that.
certain point, he said he
Yeah.
won't. He'll do it, and then he'll
Yeah.
It'll
stop
be
that.
shifted over.
I mean, I guess he's starting as of September 1st. It's official as
Yeah.
far as, but his project has been. What I've heard, it's gonna. They've been hinting at it with more information, but they're not gonna tell you. But I think it's gonna be something with Wolverine. I think is what the speculation might be. Him and Joey Mad doing something with Wolverine. I think
Wolverine.
because they showed that in the on the news release, they showed that picture from House of M cover or whatever, and it showed Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Hulk, and they were kind of hinting that possibly, relating to one of
Right.
those characters. So I think it's going to be, my prediction is Jeff Loeb and
He's a new Fantastic Four. That's what it would be.
that
Marvel's-
would be sweet. That would be my choice. If I would have to pick a book to put Jeff Loeb on, I would put him on FF.
Yeah, I would like. I wouldn't mind seeing
Because
him
his
back on
when
that
he was
again.
there working with Carlos Pacheco and doing their run,
Yep.
that book had the magic to it like
Yes.
I've never felt before, except for in the Silver Age stuff that I really enjoyed reading. And that was such a disheartening thing to see those two guys leave that book because that was phenomenal.
Yeah, the book has not been the same since
Never
then.
has not reached that level.
Right.
I just think it would be cool. It just kind of hit me. Would be for him and Tim Sale to do like a Captain America early, like they did
Yeah.
Daredevil Yellow and Hulk Gray.
They were
Like
joking
Cap
about a
Red,
Moon
White,
Knight
Blue.
Silver.
Yeah, I said that, and then somebody had to put that
And
Moon
what
Knight
do
white.
you mean Moon Knight white?
Good one. See, I can laugh about it. I
Right.
don't have to. But yeah, I would love to see it because I love that series. I love those. I love
Yeah.
when they did those. Every one that I've read have been phenomenal.
Mhm.
They're great books. They add to the character. They don't discredit any continuity.
Right.
It's very well done. He's a great writer, and
Okay.
I would love to see him tackle a bunch of different characters.
All the DC stuff that him and Tim Sale have done have been excellent as well.
Mhm.
He
Been
is one
very
of my
happy.
favorite comic writers. He's
Yeah.
something that everything that I've read that he's done has been phenomenal. He's just an all-out around, good writer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
he's-
be following him tomorrow.
Yeah, so he's one of those guys that will get me to at least pick up the first issue of the book
Yep.
just to see
Sure.
what he's doing.
Absolutely.
It's kind of pissing me off that Marvel has made Wolverine a must-buy book.
I agree with you too.
Because that's the last book in the world I want to buy. But
Yeah.
then when Mark Miller and John Romita Jr. did their first thing on Wolverine, I had to buy it because John Romita Jr. And I wasn't expecting much. I mean, I hope to expect a lot from Mark Miller, but you never know. It's Wolverine. What the hell can you do with Wolverine? And it was a slam dunk.
That book is awesome. I
Oh
mean,
my God!
that is the best Wolverine I've read in a long time.
Yeah,
You know,
Maybe ever.
I was gonna say I would almost go ever.
Yeah.
There were,
there's hardly anybody who's ever had a grasp on the character to make it interesting and to keep you wanting to read issue after issue.
Yeah.
I mean, Wolverine's can be a cool character. I mean, looking at it from years going by, I mean, he was a great character, but he's just one of those things that's watered down, and everybody's kind of fed up with it. But when he's done right, he's an awesome character, and this is definitely done right.
Yeah.
yep.
It's a
Absolutely.
no-hit, and a no-miss kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Well, we have some time left, so we can kick through a few more emails.
Sure. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Sure.
Why not?
This one is from. I'll just read it. He says, "Hi guys, I've been listening to your show for about 6 or 7 shows now. I really like the show and what you have to say. You guys are great. I was just listening to the Indie Show, episode 36, and I have not finished it, but I wanted to get you an email before I forgot. I'm a big DC fan, and I read a lot of Marvel as well. I read a lot of indie comics too. Here's a list of some of my favorite indie books. The Goon by Eric Powell, Walking Dead by Robert Kirkman, Why the Last Man by Brian Cavon. Robert Kirkman and Brian Cavon. Anything by Steve Niles, 30 Days of Night is one of his best. Player vs. Player is a great comic by Geeks for Geeks. All those books are a good read every issue. I just thought I would share some of my favorites with you in hope that they would become some of yours and your listeners' favorites as well. Your true believer, John."
I
Well,
totally
thank you.
agree with him.
Yeah, Goon.
Goon is awesome.
is a great book.
That is an independent book. If somebody would say recommend me an independent book, that's the first thing that would come to my mind.
Yep. It's just a lot of fun. It's not like a deep book. There's nothing. It just.
It's totally fresh.
Mhm.
totally
Yeah.
different, something new, and it's a great read. He's very, very, very solid on that book.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but this issue of previews, they're resoliciting issue number 1 at 25 cents. It's like, how the hell can you go wrong with 20?
Right.
I mean, 25 cents. But I am the trade paperbacks are on my list of ones to pick up. It's just that if I ever have a slow month and I can actually afford it, I'll pick it up. But that almost never happens. So.
Yeah.
I'll accept free Goon trade paperbacks in the mail. If anyone, if you really want me to read it, I'll
But yeah, basically everything that he's listed is something that we've all said the same things about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just actually at Comic-Con I picked up the PvP, the first issue of that, because Peter David kind of suggested it, and I thought, what the hell, and I walked over there. It was at the Image booth, and unfortunately the guy who writes it wasn't there at the time. I think his wife and daughter were there, so I just I bought the first one.
So you just stole the first issue?
Well, yeah, I said, hey, look over there, and I yoink, yoink. But no, I definitely agree with all the rest of them too.
All right, another email from Owen Killam. It says, hey guys, I started on your show when the new iTunes came out and have been into it ever since. I also am the one that told the News Askew guys about you. Oh, thank you
very much.
Because that link actually drew in a whole lot of other listeners for us.
Yeah.
So
Say we love you.
it's a great show to listen to for Kevin Smith fans, Star Wars, comic books, and the occasional Askew reference. I have a couple of Star Wars questions for you guys. I just read the Labyrinth of Evil book and was a little confused at the end. Have you read that book, Shane?
I did not finish it yet.
No.
I skipped it and started reading Book of the Month Club stuff. So I haven't gotten back to that.
The important stuff.
Yeah.
Priorities.
He says, when watching the movies, I always assumed that Count Dooku and the rest of the guys knew that Darth Sidious was Chancellor Palpatine. But in this book, you find out that General Grievous had no idea and even considered killing him several times after kidnapping him. It also seemed at the end of the book that maybe Count Dooku didn't even know his real identity. Does Count Dooku know who the Emperor is? When looking for the answer to this question on the internet, I found an original script synopsis that was supposedly written by George Lucas, where Anakin is Darth Vader quite a bit more, and a lot more goes on at the end with Darth Bane showing up. Is this an actual original draft?
Conrad
or is
Bane?
this BS? I don't know. I admit defeat on this question.
Never heard of that one.
I don't
Darth
know.
Bane.
Or does Darth Bane pump up with venom and then he breaks Batman?
That's right.
I have always thought myself, from what I've read of Labyrinth of Evil and what I read of the Episode 3 novel, and then seen the movie, I always thought Count Dooku did know who the Emperor was.
I would assume that Count Dooku did, but that
I don't think General Grievous did.
I got
No.
from the movie that General Grievous
No,
didn't.
but
know.
I did.
No.
But I always thought, because the way the Episode 3 book reads is that at that instant in the beginning of Episode 3, the whole battle between Anakin and Dooku in the book, there's a little banter inside Dooku's head that made me think that he knew who Palpatine was.
Well, again, here I am tap dancing around, so I don't spoil anything.
That's what I did.
Just the look on his face right before what happened. You kind of thought, well, wait a second. He's looking at the Emperor, going, "Why did you just tell him that?" And then, because
The rest of the battle unfolds.
Yeah, I also thought that Dooku did know who he was, because it's so.
Yeah, well, let's ask the hi-fi
Magic
design Magic 8 Ball.
Oh, Magic 8 Ball, did he know?
Cannot foretell now. Ooh.
Oh.
So we're still left in mystery.
So the force is a little cloudy on that.
That's
one.
right.
yet.
Dickus.
So that was from Owen Killam, huh?
Yes.
Does he work at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe?
He works with Claude Balls and
Jack Mayhofer?
Jack Mayhofer.
All right, here's one from JJ. Greetings, Comic Geek Speak. My name is JJ.
Jimmy Walker.
Yeah.
Dynamite! I'm a relatively new listener, and I'm totally addicted. I'm an engineer, and I keep your show playing at work all day now, and find that I actually get a little pissed when coworkers come to talk to me because I have to pause it. That's excellent.
Excellent.
Anyway, my questions. I'm a trades guy. My local shop here bags all of the trades on their shelves, and it's got me wondering if I should be bagging my trades at home. I'm not talking boards and the whole bit, but I've been thinking that I'd like these books to be nice for my kids when they're old enough. I've got some Miracle Man trades and whatnot that could possibly be kept nice. What do you guys think of this? Pain in the ass?
Maybe the Miracle Man trades.
Yeah, maybe
but
those, 'cause
otherwise,
they're worth a small mint.
Yeah, but otherwise, I don't bag any trade.
Bag 'em.
I don't bag mine either. I know Peter does, but I don't do that either.
I think a lot of times you'll find they do that for a couple reasons. One, to keep the book looking nice, because people tend to stand in them and read the book, and they're not like Borders where they can get 5 or 6 copies of one book. They'll have one copy of the book. I know our local comic book store does it for that very reason. They only get one copy, and they'll let you open and look at it. I mean, that's no problem, but they want to discourage a lot of thumbing through it, so that, because who wants to buy the book when the cover is bent and all that if they can only afford to buy one copy? To me, for my collection, no. I have enough that I have them on a bookshelf. I have them so that I don't have them overstuffed, but they're up there. They're not going to bend.
Right, because for me personally, that's one of the big benefits of trades is that they're very easily accessible. I can just grab it off the shelf and flip through it anytime I want.
Right.
I don't have to undo the tape and worry about the tape getting stuck to the cover and all that nonsense.
And like we said, other than the Miracle Man, there aren't really trades. Usually don't go up in value or anything like that. I mean, there are a couple that, the older they are and if they stay in and out of print, that's where you get your value, but you can always tell which ones those are. So
I mean, I'm very cautious with my trades. I don't like to get them thrown around or anything. So
Right.
I do the same thing.
I treat them almost as carefully as I do my comics.
Exactly. It's just that it doesn't feel it's necessary to bag them to do that.
All right, and then he goes on. Also, just out of curiosity, how do you guys read your comics? By that I mean, do you read captions and dialogue first and then look at the art, or vice versa, or something else? I tend to appreciate the writers more than the artists, so I find I can get wrapped up reading through all the bubbles and sometimes miss things in the art. I guess that prompts another question. Do you guys think great art can make up for crappy writing? I think I may have missed out on some decent titles because the artists may have been awesome, but there are certain writers I try to avoid. Thanks for doing such a good job, JJ.
I usually read the bubbles first, and then look at the art.
I think I do a quick scan of the art, then read the bubbles, and then if there's something in those bubbles that prompts me to pay more attention to the art, that's what I do.
I mean, it depends on the book too. I mean, I find for myself it depends on which book, but I think in general, if I'd have to say, it would be I would check the art first and then read what's going on.
I actually find myself, for most titles, paging through, looking at it first, and then I go back and then I read it. Unless
I don't do that because I don't want it. I don't want it spoiled.
The whole book, just to get an idea of what's unless I know it's something like, not to reveal anything, but for instance, when the issue of Batman came out where I knew the Red Hood's identity was going to be revealed, I wasn't going to page through that in advance. I was going to take my time with each one, but there's a couple titles that I'll flip through, see what's going on, get an idea, and then I'll go back and read, and that pretty much brings everything together for me.
You know what? I will even chime in for Peter here. I know that on certain books he takes a board and covers up the opposite page so as not to spoil anything as he's reading the first page.
Wow. There are times when to me that sounds like a good idea.
It is in some instances.
I'm irritated because my eyes just drawn and I go, well, now I almost don't even need to read this because I see what happens.
That's why I try to read the bubbles first without looking at the art. But like you say, every now and then it just wanders over there.
But I'm really an art guy. And so I love to look at the artwork.
To me, they're both equally important. I mean, and on the subject of can a great artist save a mediocre script or writer? Absolutely, I think it can happen either way.
Yeah.
I've seen some crappy art and had some really good stories, and I think people would miss out on that because of that. So I think they're both equally important, and both should be equally attended to as far as.
I mean, like I said, for me, I'm definitely a visual guy, so.
Yeah.
If a book has crappy artwork, I find I almost can't read it, no matter how good the story is.
Jones.
Yeah.
See, I love
I like
Kelly
Kelly
Jones.
Jones.
But
everybody, I'm like you. I'm the same way. I'm a very visual. I love artwork and such, and I don't get to the extent where like you do, where it actually turns me off that I don't want to read it possibly, but it is not as enjoyable then. And then, of course, then I'll find myself more focusing on the dialogue and the words.
Just blur it out.
To me, I'm more of the look to look at the artwork a little bit, read, and then go back depending on who the artist is because some artists will stick a whole bunch of stuff in their panels and all that kind of stuff, But I don't. To me, a bad artist can really hurt a book. I find it very tough sometimes to read, even if it's a great writer. I find it very tough to read a book that has bad artwork in it.
Because I guess when I think about it, it's like a lot like what you just said, Jamie, about when an artist throws into a panel or a picture or something like that. I mean, when you look at some of especially Marvel's process of producing a book, where the writer writes a plot, then the artist draws the book primarily, and then the writer gets it back and he scripts the dialogue and the narration, and I think that happens a lot, that the artist kind of throws stuff in there on his own, and then the writer goes, "Hey, well, that's kind of cool. I'll utilize that, or I'll add a little attention to that, or that was kind of cool. I didn't think of that." And I think that's where you kind of get the amalgamation of equal parts there.
And I'll agree that it's harder for me to buy a book with a really bad artist, even if it has great dialogue. But I have bought books for both reasons, just because there's good art and just because there's good dialogue. But it is harder for me to buy a book with bad art.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yep, I agree.
All right, we got another one here. The subject of the email is just entitled Liefeld. It's from Dave Anderson. He says, "You guys harp on Rob Liefeld a lot. Good for you!" All in caps. "This is the guy that ruined the end of New Mutants for me. I was so disappointed when the art turned into the dotted line, gigantic thighs, floating boobs mess that was Liefeld's signature style. I was so pissed that I had to read the last issues and look at that crap, but I had to see how it ended. Then I promptly took them over to one of my neighbors and unloaded them for $5 each. How did this guy hoodwink the comics fans into thinking his art was cool?"
That was
I'll agree with you there.
the general masses when the art was the thing in the 90s, when all
was
their
right
focus was on the artists.
I mean, I fell for it. I admit.
I will admit too.
Yeah, Stephen Platt, Todd McFarlane, and Bob Liefeld, and Jim Lee, they were all more visually focused attention on their product, and that's what drove their industry.
And I think at the time, there had been artists with signature styles. There had been Frank Miller, there had been Bill Sienkiewicz, and there had been a few, but there weren't, and there was not an abundance of guys who had very unique styles that you could pick out from a mile away. A lot of people were just kind of like generic comic artists where more or less all looked the same.
Yeah, it had that Marvel look to it.
Right.
Even if it was Byrne or Frank Miller, they still all had this quote unquote Marvel look to it.
Like the house style.
Yeah.
And then along came McFarlane, because he was in there before Liefeld was.
Right.
And so it stood out, and you went, wow, it made you take notice.
Yep.
And then Liefeld came along, and even though his anatomy was atrocious and his backgrounds were non-existent or whatever, you still looked at it and you went, well, it's different, it's cool.
Yeah.
Your first impression was, it's cool. And actually, I think his best art is the stuff he did on the New Mutants.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I actually, for me, he got worse
Yes.
as he went along.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean,
Because it was his first gig or whatever, so he put more time and
so
effort
he
into
put
it.
more effort into it. And once he became quote unquote the next big thing, then he could
just throw it out there.
Yep.
And that's
Lays it
exactly
out.
what it seemed like it was too, just thrown out there.
And he's one I never got drawn into through that whole Image thing at all.
No.
Or even before, I never picked up any of his New Mutant stuff or anything. He just never did it for me now. I know Jamie's not, but I'm getting the 2 or 3 issues of Teen Titans. But it does look better than some of his other stuff. The pictures
agree.
I've seen.
I did see some preview pictures, and it
looks
looks like
better.
And again, I think that's the thing, because there was a big thing between DC and Liefeld that he was never going to work there again.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised to see him doing 3 issues of Titans. So he must have done something, and I think because of that, he's going to put extra attention to it, whatever that means. But I mean, it does look better than what his stuff that we would say normally what we envision when you think of Rob Liefeld.
And he has always stated that he's a Teen Titan fan. So I mean that might actually be something to it, that he's putting extra effort into his favorite characters.
And to me, one of the nicest things he's done, if you want to give him, the props of the nicest things he's done, was a Hawk and Dove miniseries he did right around the time of Armageddon 2001, basically introducing the new Hawk and Dove that they introduced in that series, that line. and it was nice.
Yeah, I
It
enjoyed
was-
that book.
it
I
was
really
a good
did.
book.
Because I always liked Hawk and Dove from back in the Teen
Mhm.
Titans
Yeah.
eras, and to see them come back and kind of mix it up a little bit, and it was still good. Because I was a little hesitant going like, they're going to make Dove a woman, and I was like, but it was good.
Yeah,
It fit.
it was.
So that's how we all fell for Liefeld at the beginning, and any of the other guys who weren't that fantastic. And
Right.
but that whole art movement did suck a lot of 13-year-old kids into
Oh, yeah.
comics. So
Mhm.
it did have its good points.
Hence, you were selling millions of copies.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was all motivated by the art.
Yeah.
And now you can see after the years have passed who's survived and
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
you know
Still
who
around.
hasn't. So
Yeah, and you see people like Jim Lee who were always good to begin
absolutely.
with. And
Well,
his very first
his
stuff
very
was
first stuff was
pretty lousy.
Yeah, if nobody's ever seen that and you think Jim Lee, you would never
Yeah.
you would see that first issue of Alpha Flight that he did and it was like, wow.
But and then he got a little too big for his britches, like all the other guys did. But then he calmed down, and now he's a well-respected guy in the industry, doing lots of fantastic work, and a sensible businessman,
Right.
and all the rest, and a nice guy to talk to at the
Oh, yeah.
conventions.
Yeah.
So,
He's, you mentioned all the things that make him different.
Right.
He created Wildstorm, and he put effort into making quality books and getting quality people on the books, and which ended up getting bought up by DC. So and now he's focusing on drawing other characters more or less.
I'm actually excited for him to come back to Wildcats.
Yeah. So I mean, you can see where the persistence and where the true,
Well, then you look at
comic fans.
well, I mean, the tenure. You know what I mean? The actual, the staying power in the industry,
Yeah,
not just a
sure.
flash in the pan thing.
Right.
Love him or hate him, but just look at what Eric Larson's done with Savage Dragon. It's
Absolutely.
still going
Yeah.
over
I can't
100 and
stand.
some issues,
Yeah,
but
it's probably up to like 120
Oh,
now
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
but he's still
But he's
month
still
after
there.
month he's putting out a book, and more power to him. Like I said, he hate him or love him, he's still there putting out a
That's
book,
right.
and it's
It's more than McFarlane can say.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, I've always been disappointed in the fact that he doesn't really draw anymore, although he's going to do it for one of this anniversary issue coming up or something. And I love some of his toys, but I really, really miss him drawing a book.
He's too busy buying balls.
yes,
That's for sure.
But, I mean,
blowing all our money
He's
on
still,
balls.
he's still involved in writing, though. He's never really left the writing completely
right.
from Spawn, so he's still involved with the book.
But it's just
he's
his
not
artwork,
doing the artwork.
his
Of
artwork
course,
that I miss.
I don't know, to give him credit, he might have made so much money that he's just basically retired and enjoying life at home with his kids, which I can appreciate
Yeah,
as
because
well.
they don't,
Credit
where credit's due. He took his company and he diversified it enough that the man doesn't have to work for the rest of his
and they
life.
do make
so.
the finest toys
Yes,
ever
they do.
made.
Yeah, nicest. I mean,
Yeah.
you like sculpts of the sports figures. I mean,
Oh,
those
yeah.
those are so nice. And I'll tell you right now, the one thing that I saw he's doing that I really like is the his line of dragons.
Oh, yes,
they're
yes.
gorgeous.
And
Yes, they are.
freaking gorgeous. They're huge.
Well, and then also
What are you saying?
that last series I saw in the comic store too was like the fairy tale characters, like the Hansel and
Oh, yeah,
Gretel.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And that
Twisted Fairy
Oh,
Tales.
that looks awesome. I mean,
Little
I was
Red
like-
Riding Hood's my favorite.
Yeah, I was like, my God, what an idea! I never even thought to even be interested in anything like that. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, it drew me right to them. I was like, these are really neat looking figures.
I even picked up one of the military figures, the Navy SEAL.
I was gonna say they just came out with like GI Joe type military figures, which look really nice too.
I give him props. I mean, the guy
yeah.
did what he's did, and I can understand why he's not drawing because drawing's a very time-consuming thing.
Mhm.
So
I
he'll
just-
do it when he can do it, and then he's busy doing it because I know they're going to bring back Spawn in the animated series
Mhm.
again.
Yep.
And so
Oh, I
he's,
didn't hear
he's-
They're casting voices now.
They just showed some preview pictures, like a flash animation, to give you an idea what it's going to be looking like. Recently on the web, I think it was just in the past week.
Yeah,
So-
the animated series was actually pretty good.
Yeah, the
yeah.
HBO series
Yeah,
is
it
good.
was
That's
good.
why I kept HBO when I did back when I lived in the
Sure
apartment
beat the
that I
movie,
did.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually watching that like in Encore or one of those has been playing, and I can only watch a couple minutes of it, then I have to turn it off.
Brian, I have to tell you that I just got a buzz on my phone.
So did I.
And it's Peter with a text message, just checking to see who has their ringtones on.
Yeah,
He wants us to put $1 into the thing. Too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
We
that's
turn
my
ours
silent.
off.
Nah, 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 nah.
My truck, my phone's in the truck.
Ah, you didn't try mine.
All right. Well, I think we've wasted enough of your time now. So that'll be the end of that. To send us an email, it is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. That's where you can send all your Geeks of the Day and Stump the Rios questions. We never stumped anybody today. We
I
forgot
just said
to
that
do
to
that.
Shane. I was like, we didn't do a trivia.
Oh, well.
Yeah, well.
Next time. We'll
Yeah,
keep
right.
we'll keep you in suspense. Check out our blog. It's comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com, where we have lots of information in addition to what we talk about on the show. Special thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting the show and basically making it possible. Vote for us at Podcast Alley, please, and also subscribe to our show using iTunes. And if you would like to buy a T-shirt, you can find those on our blog. And that's pretty much it. We're coming at you with the support of WorldFamousComics.com. And as always, we are Comic Geek Speak, uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.